Welcome to Successful Idea. You guys know I love diving deep into the stories of hustlers, innovators, and game changers, and today we're doing just that. We're exploring 12 incredible stories from Jewish entrepreneurs that frankly hold the secrets to building wealth, resilience, and a growth mindset that can level up your entire life. I'm talking about crushing it in business and becoming the best version of yourself. We're talking about a community known for its intelligence, resourcefulness, and straight-up hustle. The Jewish people have this uncanny ability to adapt and thrive even in the face of adversity. It's inspiring, it's insightful, and it's a playbook for winning in all aspects of life. These stories aren't just about business, they're lessons for life, filled with wisdom that will inspire you to see challenges as opportunities and turn dreams into reality. They're about seeing potential where others see roadblocks and having the guts to go after it. So buckle up, hit that like button, and let's dive into these timeless tales and discover the mindset behind their success. Our first story takes us back to the bustling streets of New York City, where a young Jewish immigrant named Max was trying to make a living selling souvenirs. Times were tough, and Max was struggling to move his cheaply made miniature Statue of Liberties. People weren't biting, and he was starting to lose hope. But then Max had an epiphany. He realized he needed to differentiate, to offer something unique. Instead of selling more trinkets, Max pivoted his entire approach. He began selling small, potted evergreen trees marketed as living souvenirs of New York City. These weren't your average souvenirs, they were symbols of growth, resilience, and the American dream. People connected with the symbolism, the story, and the sheer novelty of it all. Max tapped into something powerful, the desire for something more meaningful than a mass-produced trinket. His little trees became a huge hit. Tourists loved the idea of taking home a living piece of their New York experience. Max's business boomed, and he became known as the Tree Man of New York. This story isn't just about selling trees, it's about the power of creativity, adaptability, and seeing opportunity where others see only struggle. Max's story teaches us that sometimes you have to be willing to scrap what's not working and find a new angle. Don't be afraid to experiment, to pivot, to find that unique value proposition that sets you apart from the competition. Remember, success often comes from doing things differently, not just doing things harder. Let's jump to the sun-drenched banana plantations of South America. Our next entrepreneur, a resourceful woman named Sarah, found herself facing a dilemma. Due to unforeseen circumstances, a huge shipment of bananas ripened too quickly and was on the verge of going to waste. Now, most people would see a field of overripe bananas and think, well, that's a sticky situation, but not Sarah. She saw an opportunity. Instead of accepting defeat, Sarah decided to experiment. She remembered a traditional recipe for roasted bananas and thought, why not? She roasted the bananas to perfection, enhancing their sweetness and creating a whole new flavor profile. She took her roasted bananas to the local market, unsure of how people would react. To her surprise, they were an instant hit. People couldn't get enough of this unique and delicious treat. Sarah's roasted bananas became a local sensation, turning a potential disaster into a booming business. This story is the embodiment of the lemonade principle, turning lemons into lemonade, or in this case, overripe bananas into a culinary success. It's about resourcefulness, creativity, and that never-give-up attitude that defines true entrepreneurs. This story teaches us that challenges are often opportunities in disguise. When life throws you overripe bananas, don't throw in the towel, roast them. Find a way to add value, to innovate, to turn a setback into a comeback story. Remember, it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you react to it. Now let's travel back in time to a small village in Eastern Europe where a clever Jewish merchant named Isaac found himself in a tricky situation. A notoriously ruthless debt collector was after him for a debt that Isaac was struggling to repay. The debt collector was known for his intimidating tactics and lack of mercy, but Isaac, being a man of quick wit and even quicker thinking, decided to use his intelligence to outmaneuver the situation. Isaac challenged the debt collector to a peculiar wager. He proposed that if the debt collector could walk across the entire village square without a single hair on his head being touched by the setting sun, Isaac would pay him double the amount he owed. However, if even a single ray of sunlight graced the debt collector's bald head, the debt would be considered paid in full. The debt collector, confident in his ability to cheat the system, readily agreed. As the sun began to set, the debt collector, with a smug look on his face, confidently strode across the village square. However, Isaac, being the astute observer he was, had strategically placed a flock of pigeons on a rooftop overlooking the square. As the debt collector reached the center of the square, Isaac clapped his hands, startling the pigeons into flight. The birds soared through the air, their shadows momentarily eclipsing the setting sun and casting fleeting but undeniable shadows upon the debt collector's shiny head. Isaac, with a knowing smile, pointed out the technicality, and the debt collector, bound by his word, had no choice but to accept defeat. This story is a classic example of using wit and strategy to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It's about thinking outside the box, anticipating challenges, and finding creative solutions. Remember, sometimes the best way to win a battle is to outsmart your opponent, not outmuscle them. Chapter 4. Our next story takes us to the bustling ports of 19th century America, where a young Jewish immigrant named Benjamin was making a name for himself. While others saw discarded scrap metal as nothing but trash, Benjamin saw potential. He recognized that one man's trash is another man's treasure. Benjamin began collecting scrap metal from shipyards and factories, often for next to nothing. People thought he was crazy, but Benjamin had a vision. He understood that raw materials, even in their most unassuming forms, held inherent value. He collected discarded nails, dented sheets of copper, and rusty old gears, amassing a surprising inventory of what others considered junk. What Benjamin possessed was a keen eye for value and an understanding of market demand. He knew that with a little ingenuity, he could transform these discarded materials into valuable commodities. He set up a small workshop where he meticulously sorted, cleaned, and processed the scrap metal. He then sold the refurbished materials back to manufacturers at a profit, proving that what some deemed worthless could be transformed into something of value. Benjamin's scrap metal business thrived, turning him into a prosperous entrepreneur and proving that sometimes the greatest opportunities are found in the most unexpected places. Chapter 5. Let's shift gears now and talk about a different kind of entrepreneurial spirit. This story isn't about building a business, but about understanding human nature, particularly the hearts and minds of children. It's about a kind and clever grandmother named Ruth, who had a knack for resolving conflicts peacefully. One sunny afternoon, a group of children gathered in Ruth's backyard to play. They were all excited about spending the day together, but their excitement quickly turned into a heated argument. The source of the contention, a seemingly insignificant wooden toy, a simple, unassuming toy truck. Each child claimed ownership of the toy, their voices growing louder and their little faces turning red with frustration. Just when it seemed like a playground brawl was about to erupt, Ruth stepped in, her calm demeanor instantly diffusing the tension. She sat down with the children and listened patiently as each child presented their case, their tiny voices filled with righteous indignation. Instead of taking sides or imposing a solution, Ruth, with her infinite wisdom and understanding of children, proposed a simple yet ingenious solution. She suggested that instead of fighting over the toy, they should take turns playing with it. She explained that sharing wasn't about giving up something they wanted, but about creating an environment where everyone could experience the joy of playing with the toy. To the children's surprise, Ruth's suggestion worked like magic. The idea of taking turns, of sharing the experience, resonated with their innate sense of fairness. The argument subsided, replaced by smiles and the joyful sounds of children playing harmoniously together. Chapter 6. Now, let's dive into a story that's less about literal entrepreneurship and more about adopting an entrepreneurial mindset. It's a story about resilience, adaptability, and the power of perspective. It's the story of the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean. Imagine, if you will, a young man named David grappling with a difficult situation, feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Seeking guidance, he turns to his wise old grandfather, a man who had seen his fair share of adversity and emerged from it stronger. The grandfather, with a knowing twinkle in his eye, takes David to the kitchen and places 3 pots filled with water on the stove. In the first pot, he gently places a carrot, in the second, a raw egg, and in the third, ground coffee beans. He lets the pot simmer for a while, the aroma of brewing coffee filling the air. David, intrigued by his grandfather's actions, patiently waits for an explanation. After some time, the grandfather turns off the stove and carefully removes the items from the pots. He places the softened carrot, the hardened egg, and the steaming cup of coffee in front of David. "What do you see, David?" he asks, his voice filled with gentle wisdom. David, still puzzled but eager to understand the lesson hidden within this culinary experiment, responds, "A carrot, an egg, and a cup of coffee." The grandfather smiles and says, "Yes, David, but look closer. All three faced the same adversity, boiling water, yet each reacted differently." Chapter 7. Respecting Small Opportunities. This next story is about a young woman named Hannah, who, like many of us, dreamed of achieving great things. She wanted to make a real difference in the world, to leave her mark on the world, but Hannah felt stuck, overwhelmed by the enormity of her aspirations. She would spend hours daydreaming about making a big impact, but the fear of failure, the thought of starting small, kept her paralyzed. One day, while expressing her frustrations to her grandmother, a wise woman who had lived a life filled with purpose and meaning, Hannah stumbled upon a profound realization. Her grandmother, with a gentle smile, reminded her that even the tallest oak tree was once a small acorn. She explained that every great achievement, every impactful journey, began with a single, seemingly insignificant step. It was about recognizing and respecting the power of small beginnings. Hannah's grandmother shared a story about a young boy who spent his days picking up starfish that had washed ashore, tossing them back into the ocean one by one. When asked why he bothered, as there were thousands of starfish and he couldn't possibly save them all, the boy replied, "It makes a difference to this one." This simple story resonated deeply with Hannah. She realized that she didn't have to single-handedly change the world overnight. What mattered was taking action, however small, and making a difference in the lives of those around her. Inspired by her grandmother's words and the story of the starfish, Hannah decided to start small. Chapter 8. The 90-10th Rule of Wealth. Our next story is about a successful businessman named Solomon, renowned for his financial acumen. Solomon believed in a simple yet powerful principle he called the 90-10th Rule. He preached this rule to anyone who would listen, emphasizing that it was the cornerstone of his financial success. The rule was deceptively simple. Save 10% of everything you earn and live off the remaining 90%. Solomon understood that building wealth wasn't about hitting the lottery or chasing get-rich-quick schemes. It was about consistent, disciplined saving, about making saving a non-negotiable part of life. He would often say, "It's not about how much you make, but how much you keep." Solomon believed that by consistently setting aside a portion of his earnings, he was creating a safety net, a foundation for future growth. This disciplined approach to saving allowed him to weather economic storms, invest wisely, and ultimately achieve financial independence. He stressed that even small amounts, saved consistently over time, could compound into significant wealth. To illustrate this point, Solomon would often share the story of two friends, both of whom started their careers at the same time, earning the same income. One friend, let's call him Jacob, lived paycheck to paycheck, spending everything he earned. Chapter 9. Humility of a Tycoon. Now let's talk about a man named Abraham, a business tycoon who had achieved remarkable success in the cutthroat world of real estate. Despite his wealth and influence, Abraham remained grounded, always remembering where he came from and never letting success inflate his ego. He firmly believed that true success wasn't measured by the size of one's bank account, but by the impact one made on the lives of others. One day, Abraham decided to teach his grandson, a young man named Ethan, a valuable lesson about humility. He took Ethan to one of his construction sites, a sprawling development filled with bustling workers and towering cranes. Ethan, used to a life of privilege, had never been to a construction site before. He looked around in awe at the sheer scale of the operation. Abraham, wanting to impart a lasting lesson, pointed to a group of workers pouring concrete and said, "Ethan, you see those men over there? They may not wear suits and ties, but they are the backbone of this entire operation. They are the ones who turn our visions into reality, brick by brick, stone by stone. Abraham then did something unexpected. He walked over to the workers, picked up a shovel, and began helping them spread concrete. Ethan stood there, stunned, watching his wealthy and powerful grandfather perform what he considered menial labor. This story takes us back to the bustling marketplace of a 19th century European city, a place teeming with vendors hawking their wares, each vying for the attention of potential customers. Amidst this cacophony of commerce, there was a shrewd young rug merchant named Jacob, known for his keen understanding of human psychology and the art of persuasion. Jacob had a knack for reading people, for understanding their desires and motivations. He noticed that often customers were swayed not necessarily by the inherent quality of a product, but by how it was presented, by the story woven around it. One day, while observing his fellow merchants, Jacob noticed a peculiar trend. A vendor selling ordinary glass beads had managed to draw a large crowd by simply changing his sales pitch. Instead of presenting the beads as what they were, inexpensive trinkets, he had cleverly marketed them as rare gemstones from a distant land. The vendor wove elaborate tales of their mystical origins and healing properties, captivating the imaginations of gullible customers. Jacob, though somewhat amused by the vendor's audacity, recognized the brilliance of his strategy. He understood that the vendor wasn't just selling beads, he was selling a fantasy, an illusion of luxury and exclusivity. This realization sparked an idea in Jacob's mind. Let's fast forward to the digital age, where our next entrepreneur, a visionary coffee shop owner named Rachel, understood that in a world saturated with choices, sometimes the key to success lies in offering something beyond the expected. Rachel ran a small, cozy coffee shop in a bustling city centre. While her coffee was excellent, she faced stiff competition from larger chains and trendy cafes. Rachel knew she had to find a way to differentiate herself, to offer something unique that would draw customers in and keep them coming back for more. She realized that people weren't just looking for a caffeine fix, they were seeking connection, a sense of community. In today's fast-paced, digitally driven world, people are constantly on the go, glued to their devices. Recognizing this, Rachel decided to transform her coffee shop into a haven for digital nomads, a place where people could connect not just with each other, but also with the online world. She invested in high-speed Wi-Fi, making it free and accessible to all her customers. This simple act transformed her coffee shop from a place to grab a quick coffee into a destination, a hub for remote workers, students, and anyone seeking a reliable internet connection and a welcoming atmosphere. Our final story is about a self-made woman named Esther, who, despite having humble beginnings, rose to become a leader in the world of finance. Esther's journey was a testament to the transformative power of education and the importance of continuous learning. Growing up in a household where money was tight, Esther understood the value of hard work and making the most of every opportunity. She realized early on that knowledge was the key to breaking the cycle of poverty, to creating a better future for herself and her family. Esther devoured books, attended every workshop she could find, and never shied away from asking questions. She was a sponge for information, always eager to learn new skills and expand her understanding of the world. She believed that the more she knew, the more valuable she became. This thirst for knowledge led her to pursue higher education, working multiple jobs to pay her way through college and eventually earning an MBA. Armed with a sharp mind and an unquenchable desire to learn, Esther quickly climbed the corporate ladder. She became known for her strategic thinking, her ability to analyze complex financial data, and her knack for making sound investment decisions. But Esther never forgot the importance of continuous learning. She made it a point to stay ahead of the curve, attending industry conferences, reading widely, and constantly seeking out new information. All right, my friends, those were 12 incredible stories of Jewish entrepreneurs who embody hustle, resilience, and that relentless pursuit of opportunity. We're talking about turning scrap metal into gold, roasting bananas like champions, and understanding that knowledge is the ultimate asset. These stories are more than just anecdotes. They're a masterclass in entrepreneurial thinking, a testament to the power of creativity, adaptability, and seeing the world through a lens of possibility. Whether it's turning scrap into gold, roasting bananas, or transforming a cafe into a community hub, these tales inspire us to think differently and act decisively. These entrepreneurs didn't just stumble upon success, they created it. They hustled, they adapted, they learned from their mistakes, and most importantly, they never gave up on their vision. Remember, success isn't just about talent or luck. It's about perspective, adaptability, and continuous learning. It's about embracing challenges, seeing potential where others see obstacles, and having the guts to take action. Apply these lessons and you'll find opportunities to succeed in the most unexpected places. Thank you for joining Successful Idea. If you found these stories inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more transformative insights. See you in the next video.